So we have a special guest joining us today, Viiveck Verma. He is joining for a different reason today. So you would have a lot of people, a lot of friends. I mean, he's got awesome contacts and connects, around India because he is well known as a business leader. But today he is joining us for a different reason, and it's an honor to have you here, sir. Mr. Viiveck Verma, to give a quick introduction, he's been a business leader. He was the ex-CEO for Carvi Data Management Systems, and he's now the CEO of Upsearch, which he's really passionately driving. He's also part of a lot of social causes and demand behind driving a lot of social activities for the state, for Rotary, and some offline activities which have motivated other NGOs to move forward. So this is a small thing which I know about him, but I'm really passionate about one of the avatars of the three avatars which he has. He's well known for. Maybe the third avatar where a lot of people are not aware of it, which is basically his personal life, which a lot of people are not aware of it, and he's always been keeping this to himself. So apart from being a business leader, working in corporate for many years, setting up businesses, setting up large teams, the second avatar is being a startup entrepreneur where he's set up large startups and ensure that they're successful, sustainable. And the third one is his personal life. So this interaction is more about his personal life and how he succeeded being a warrior in his personal life. So over to you, sir. Maybe you can discuss more about this particular avatar of yours to our new friends, because we have a larger community of friends joining in also in this particular platform, and it would be honored to know you and the passion of being a warrior.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ravi. And it's an honor, and I'm very, very glad to be here and to talk to your audience. Like you rightly said about something that I don't normally talk about, I get associated mostly with the first and the second avatar, like you said. So it's very good that we are going to be talking about something which is personal. It's not easy. It's not something I do normally, but I think it's something which is very important, very integral part of me. So let me start with very early on in life. I come from a middle class family. My father was a army officer. He is a medical professional who then went on to teach. So he used to teach at the Armed Forces Medical College in Pune. He was a professor of anatomy. So I grew up in a typical defense household, growing up in the cantonment area, going to a Kendriya Vidyalaya school, and things that are very typically associated with the defense officers' children. And for those of you who don't know, this is a very typical life. You go to school in a 3-ton truck with those benches kind of bolted to the floor, and you have that standard. When we were going, it was the blue and white uniform. They slightly changed it now, but it's the same Kendriya Vidyalaya across the country, same syllabus. I was very fortunate to have done almost all my education, not almost, 11 and a half out of the 12 years in one school in one city, despite being a defense officer's son. So one of those rare things, because my father spent a lot of his time in Pune. Anyway, I finished my schooling, went on to do graduation. My father was very keen that I should also become a medical professional. And I guess that's when the first interaction for some people with failure happened, because I was the eldest in the family from both my father's and mother's side. And I come from a family which is of educated people and educationists who are actually involved in educating. My grandfather set up a lot of educational institutes in a city called Gondia in Maharashtra, which is where I was born. So we've been associated with that, and everyone had that expectation with the eldest son that he will become a doctor, follow his father's footsteps. And I decided that it's too much of studies for me. And again, just to give you a little more background, in the 9th grade, I had my first almost experience of failure. In the 9th grade, I almost flunked. four subjects that I flunked in. Fortunately, I could manage, go plead with my parents, plead with the school principal and the teachers to allow me to give a supplementary exam. The rules then used to be if three subjects you fail, you can give a supplementary. If four you fail, you repeat. They made an exception and allowed me to appear for the four subjects. I cleared it thankfully. And that's when I learned for the first time in my personal life that it's not so important what's going on in your head. It's important to recognize what is it that the world is looking at. And until then, I was probably living in that world of what I thought. So I must understand education from what I understand. And if I didn't understand, it didn't make sense to me. And that's when I transformed for the first, so the version 1.0 to 2.0 happened there to say, okay, if this is what the education system needs, let me work on that. And from that almost failed 9th standard student, I went on to complete my BSc in geology as the topper in Pune University. And Pune University is one of the largest universities in the country. We had roughly about 60,000 graduates who would pass out every year. So, so in that sense, kind of that journey of learning from the failure came in. And I chose geology because I wasn't interested in these medical engineering, which were the only two things way back in 85 when I passed my 12th. Anyway, I went on to do geology, had a infatuation of being on an ONGC rig in the sea, and I was looking forward to that. Top the university, top the college. So I said, okay, everything is hunky dory. And then I realized that ONGC, which was my dream job, has changed their recruitment process, and they need you to complete your masters and then spend at least 12 to 18 months in the recruitment process before you can join, which meant at the stage in 88 when I finished graduation, that it's another 3.5 years at least before I can get my first paycheck. And for a student who was already used to earning money by doing part-time jobs, that was too long a wait. And if in college days, if you've got some cash in your hand, you have enough uses of that cash, and suddenly you don't want to be looking at the prospect of doing a life without any of that. So I gave up geology, jumped out of geology, had admissions in a few universities overseas thanks to either being the topper, but somewhere I was, I don't know, call it nationalist, patriotic, or whatever it is. I was very clear I will never leave India as a permanent base. I may travel, but that's fine. So I gave up all of those things, jumped into the corporate world, did my management, did my law, did my computers, and did a part-time job. So those 3 years were one of the toughest I have seen in my professional life, doing three programs and doing a job. All of that happened, joined the corporate world, and like you said, the other part went on beautifully well on the corporate life. But I think one of the things that I have learned in my life, which has actually made me what I became, was when I had the first kind of interaction with this famous, for all the wrong reasons, word called cancer. And I was married for a few years, and just like any other, married couple, looking forward to a future, looking forward to children, looking forward to a happy married life. And suddenly, one fine day, we kind of through a series of incidents and deaths come to the conclusion that my wife has actually been detected with breast cancer. And then one thing led to the other, and it was a 11-year long struggle that she went through, and I was kind of a bystander, or I would say little more than a bystander, a companion of seeing that from very close quarters. And these 11 years essentially meant 11 recurrences of the disease, so 11 different spreads. Each is accompanied by chemotherapy, radiation, all of that. So fairly long, tough journey, and eventually the journey took her away in 2011. And so those 11 years, I lived my life with the fact that you had to wake up every morning and know what the day is going to be like. So there was, while we all in the corporate world talk about a 3-year plan and a 5-year plan, this period taught me that, okay, the plan is about tomorrow morning. And what is the day tomorrow going to be? Because you never know what's new, what's in store. So the stress, the anxiety, all of that I learned a very new, different dimension to all of that. And that then helped me in my personal life and in the corporate life in a phenomenal way. Because when people would come to me and say, oh, बहुत stress है boss, ये order मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा, and I'm saying, अरे नहीं मिलेगा तो क्या होगा? Because I am someone who's been through कि अगर ये नहीं होगा तो then you're going to be losing someone. उसके सामने एक order lose करना कुछ मतलब don't stress होगा. So that taught me a lot of lessons that kind of helped me. And through those 11 years, we also then decided that we don't want to carry forward the possibility of a danger of a genetic spread forward. So we said we will go ahead and look at adopting a child, and we went out and adopted my elder daughter, who's now going to be turning 20. And beautiful process. You go and work with these orphanages, look at the whole system, and it was a complete new experience. It took us about 2.5 years because that's how long it used to take for the entire process to complete. And beautiful journey. Got a beautiful young girl who came into our lives and to a large extent shaped and changed a lot of things for us. And then a few years later, we said, okay, let's also attempt to see if we can get another child. So we went back to the same orphanage and adoption center, and very surprisingly, they showed us only a few boys. And then I asked this volunteer who we were working with, saying that, why is there, the last time I came, you showed us a few boys and a few girls. Why is it that you're only showing me boys this time? And that's when the interesting conversation started. She said, you have adopted your elder daughter from us, so we know you have a girl. And the Indian laws don't permit you to adopt a second child of the same sex. So there's no point in us showing you a girl because you can't adopt a girl. So we are only going to show you boys. So you choose. And I said, look, no, that doesn't work. I didn't come with any predetermined notion, just the way I didn't come the last time. But now that you're telling me that there is some such law, which I find quite ridiculous and silly, I want to adopt a girl. So tell me, what do we need to do? And she said, sorry, you cannot adopt a girl. So there's nothing I can do. I insisted. 2 days later, she called me back and she said, okay, there is one way out, which is that you can become a legal guardian. You will not be an adopted parent. You will be a legal guardian of the girl. So if you're okay with that process, go ahead. You come in, we'll do the paperwork differently for you to be a guardian. And you can go ahead and adopt the girl. And then I went and consulted some people in the legal framework, and they told me, yes, what they're telling you is right. The Hindu Adoption Act does not allow a second child of the same sex to be adopted. And that's when I decided this is not okay. I'm going to do what I can to change this. So I went ahead, signed the legal guardianship agreement, brought the younger daughter home, and started a battle with the courts. I used to be based in Mumbai then. So with the Bombay High Court, along with 2 other families. And we fought a 3-year-long battle, at the end of which we could change the law. And Hindu Adoption Act now in India allows you to adopt any number of children, any sex, and none of those restrictions stay. One of my arguments while doing this was I'm wanting a girl. And when this rule was made, I think probably 100 years ago, nobody wanted to adopt a girl. Everyone wanted a boy because, the only reason for adoption was that people wanted somebody to carry on the legacy. And if they couldn't have a child, or if they couldn't have a son, then the easier way was to adopt a son. nobody would adopt a girl, and I was fighting, saying I want to adopt a girl who nobody looks at, or if people look at, they look at it for the wrong reasons.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, I've done a lot of work in that space. A lot of girls get adopted to become house servants or to get into the human trafficking. So here I was saying that look, for a good reason, and you guys have these silly rules. So I think that's been my learning. One is about the whole second innings, because after I adopted these two girls, and then I lost my wife. Both of them were fairly young, and I realized as a single parent that to a father, it's not going to be easy to bring up two girls. And soon the difficulties will arise, and it doesn't make sense. It's not fair. And something that kept bothering me at a conscious level is I kind of brought them home, and then I'm going to give them a future which is very different. It's not fair. It's not done. And then, against a lot of people's wishes, I went ahead and kind of started my second innings. It's now almost 9 years since then. And of course, there was the early anxiety of how four different individuals coming from different homes are suddenly going to be interacting with each other. How is life going to be? But God has been kind. It's been 9 years, and things have worked out. Sometimes now I feel I am the outsider in the house. So God has been kind. So Ravi, that's been the life, and of course there are many other smaller things, but at a high level, that's who's shaped me to a large extent. Those 11 years, and then the last 8-9 years of rebuilding life all over again. And I coincided my rebuilding of life with a geographic shift. And I was a person who spent a lot of my life in Maharashtra between Pune and then Bombay. And I shifted to Hyderabad. And for the last almost 11 odd years, I've been here. So it's been a wonderful experience, a lot of learnings, a lot of moments which have taught me. So today I'm able to deal with life in a much better manner. Like I said, both professionally and of course personally. Sorry, that's a little bit of a long introduction, but I just thought it's important to get some of those facets out to people.
You and me have something in
talk now.
you and me have something in common. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
I also failed in ninth. The difference is I failed in just one subject, and I had an option to write supplementary, but I ran away from home. Did not communicate that I had an option to my parent. My mom was alone that time. My dad passed away during childhood, so she was not very much aware of the second chance of writing supplementary. So I regret that I did not take the opportunity of writing it again, and I had to study ninth all over again. And yeah, 10th similar experience. Yeah, ये नहीं चलेगा life में, let me do better. I got it into that first rank. I mean, those days like that 65% was the first rank at that time. So that is one similarity when we were talking about. So we both have written ninth class twice.
And it's early, and when you get such, this is again something I tell a lot of the startup friends, that when you face failure early in life, you have to thank God, because it prepares you for the life ahead. Rather than living a hunky-dory life, and then you start up a new company, and then you face your first failure. You don't know how to deal with it.
True.
But you and me got to learn how to deal with failure when we were in 9th grade. So we are veterans in terms of dealing with failure now, in that sense.
Yeah. So
interesting. It's a small world.
Yeah, it's a small world. So we also have some questions for you, but in the meanwhile, we have some compliments rolling in from Shanti Kiran. She is very inspired by your story, and Nidhi Trivedi Mishra. She is complimenting about you and Ekta ma'am as a couple, and
Thank you.
courage and
Thank
power you both have. And we also have Apurva Sharma, who's getting inspired by you. Vinod Verma and Nidhi again. So we have some compliments rolling in. So we'll go through the comments. We'll not be able to see the comments right now while we are live, but yeah, these are some of the people who are like viewing and complimenting you while we are talking. So now let's get into some lighter part. I mean, these episodes actually show the strength of you as the warrior where you fought in. But these questions are more of a lighter side, just to know you well on other situations.
Sure.
All set?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so if we could do a video for your life event, what would you choose the name for it?
Resilience.
Resilience. Okay, good one. What's the title of the current chapter of your life?
The future is still loading.
Future still loading. Yeah, that was the creative we did, so, which is
Yeah.
so true and very apt for the current situation, because I think people should not be giving up, and the future is still bright.
A song that comes to my mind on that question, Ravi, is Que sera sera, whatever will be, the future's not ours to see. So I kind of, in the current scheme of things, that's how I am looking at it, because each day you read something, you can build your hopes, and then suddenly the next day something else comes up. So the future is still loading. We don't know what it's going to be.
Cool. What are some strange beliefs that some people have about you?
Well, some strange beliefs on a personal note. One of them is that they're not sure if I did the right thing by getting married again. They feel that it's not, as a society we are what we are, where we've grown up with those beliefs. So that's one strange thing I get from a lot of people. The other one is about the whole adoption. That why did I go and do this fight? For a lot of people, it's a very strange thing that why would you want to do that? You could have just taken a boy, and that's typically a standard family, again a boy and a girl, so it fitted beautifully. And the third thing is to understand the whole phase of being in that journey of being a companion, how much you need to learn, and the power of knowledge is very important. So I think a lot of people don't seem to understand that. So those are three or four strange things. And I think the fourth, which I'm still working on, and I think I'll keep working till I die, is sometimes the confidence is kind of construed as arrogance. So I'm someone who comes across as someone who knows what he's doing, but quite often I'm construed as someone who's very cocky, very arrogant. So some strange things are there that when people get to know me, they kind of say, "Oh, but that's not the impression I had about you."
Yeah, the first impression, the first profile picture, and all that is like pretty straight. I think you got used to it because you've been a leader for a long time. So I think you've been wearing it.
I've also believed that, Ravi, that it's best to, when you put your head on the pillow in the night, it's best to not have these strange thoughts in your mind. So if you have to say something, say it and get done with it, rather than carry it in your head and then keep thinking, oh, I should have, I could have, I must have. Say it and get it done, So it helped me. It helps me lead a more peaceful life. And I think by now people have got used to it, so they know I will speak my mind and get done with it.
Very true. Do you think that we dream?
Well, I have never experienced that. A lot of people ask me. So for me, the traditional sense of the dream, which you dream when you're sleeping, I don't dream, or at least I don't remember if I do dream. So I don't know scientifically if some people put some sensors in my brain, they may tell me that no, you dream, but it doesn't matter, because when I wake up in the morning, I remember nothing at all. So in that sense, traditional dreams I don't, but I do, as Abdul Kalam said, I do dream, and those dreams keep me awake. But those are not the dreams that I get in the night. Those are dreams about people's future. Those are dreams about social impact. Those are dreams about what I want to do, but not the traditional dreams. I've never experienced them. No idea.
Nice. So next question is from Vinod Verma. how do you keep yourself motivated? Is in those tough situations, is that because of the defense background to keep you fighting? I mean, does that help?
It certainly helps from the perspective of discipline. So I think one of the things that I learned early on in life, being in that environment, is the value of discipline. So that is one thing that helps for sure. But I think the other thing, Ravi and Vinod, for your question, that I have learned is that how do you use your emotions? And the first few years it was tough, but I have now kind of gotten around that, saying the best use of emotion is to put the emotion into energy and do something which can make a difference. So I can choose to get kind of hassled, anxious, but those are the wrong use of that energy. So if I can convert that emotional energy into action, into saying, okay, what is it that I learned? So so I don't regret anything in my life, for example. I don't regret that I almost reached the 4 subject failure because I learned something out of it. And so on and so forth. Each failure taught me a lesson. So I failed, but I have never regretted. I haven't done anything in life which I regret. So as long as that learning comes out, I think it kind of helps to go forward. So how do you convert the emotional energy? For example, when I was going through this tough phase with my wife, a lot of times people would come and sit down with gloomy faces, sometimes crying. And I would say, okay, if crying is going to solve this problem, let's go out and get 1,000 people. Let's book a banquet hall and let's all cry. Is it going to really solve the problem? I know it's a very tough thing, to say, but that's how I would behave. I said, okay, now if you are feeling bad, now let us think of what you can do because of that energy you have, and let's find that better use of that energy. So I would say that's how it has kind of helped me in my life so far.
Okay. So next question is from Vinod again. Suggestions for the current generation who give up easily, including me.
So I think one of the key things, Ravi, in terms of suggestion to people is to create a vision, to create a purpose. Because if you have a clear purpose and a vision, then I think it sounds very cliche, but that's how it's helped me. So whenever I have these difficult times, I kind of look at saying, okay, the difficult times will last for maybe another 2, 3, 4 months, but what's life going to be beyond that? And what did I set out to achieve in the first place? And in these short blip is going to take me away from that. If it is, then I need to do something about it. If it's just a short blip, then it's fine. For example, this a lot of people are struggling with the current lockdown COVID situation, and this has been the phase when I've actually launched a new company. I've actually made a career transition to move away from a corporate kind of a life to doing something on my own, because the long-term vision was clear, the purpose was clear. So one of the advice to people would be that. And the second is to kind of always have a very powerful network. So have a few people with whom you can continuously have conversations,
Okay.
because quite often it gets lonely, and that's the dangerous place to be, being lonely in these difficult times. So those two things have largely helped me in these difficult times.
Okay. Anything that you could steal, okay, without being conscious?
Anything that I could seal.
Steal. So
Ah,
any item, any object that you could steal
mhm.
without you being conscious about it.
Uh, that's a tough question. Mhm. I think that, given the work I do in the social impact space, I think one of the things, without really bothering too much or without hurting my conscience, that I could do is to take away some of the unnecessary usage. wealth that a lot of people do, which
Hmm.
can be put to far better use, in changing people's lives. So I would think that is something I could steal without it troubling my conscience at all.
Okay. Good. Are you a kind of friend who would want to have a friend for yourself?
Absolutely. I like I said earlier, I rely on the fact that a few friends are what all of us need.
Hmm.
Sometimes for those conversations, sometimes just to have fun, and sometimes just to be able to say cheers and have a good drink together, or play a sport. But it's very important to have a circle, some very close friends, and a larger circle of people who you can have a conversation with. There's nothing in this world I feel which can't be solved with a conversation. Everything can be solved with a conversation. Question is, with whom do you have a conversation? How deep is the conversation? But a conversation can solve any and every problem.
Do you believe love can last a lifetime?
I certainly think so. I certainly think so. I've seen that myself, and I certainly think so. Maybe even sometimes, though I don't believe in the mythological stories, but as people say, it could even last beyond a lifetime.
Do you think that it's better to know a lot about one thing or a little about many things?
Well, I have believed in the fact that knowing a little about many things is a better thing, because it expands your horizon and then gives you a chance to pick what you want to pick,
Hmm.
and go deeper about that. So certainly a little about many things.
Okay. Did you ever fall asleep while talking to someone over the phone?
Yes, I did. I did. I've worked in the BPO space. We used to have these calls which are like 4 hours, 3 hours.
Yes.
So I would have. I've done my whole exercise regime on a call. I've fallen asleep on a call. I've done all of that. Yes.
Nice. So tell some notorious things about your childhood.
Well, many notorious things. So I grew up in Pune, which is a city in Maharashtra, and I was known for someone who would never do anything straight. So if the route was to kind of study this way, write it 5 times and then prepare, I would not do it that way. I would do my own philosophy. And so I was always known. In Marathi there's a term called vakdya, which means everything will be crooked. You will
Okay.
never take the straight road, you will take the crooked road. So I was known as that. And as we progressed and went to college, I was then known as Tedu, which is again coming from Teda Kaam Karna. You never do anything straight. So I would, for example, I had a good photographic memory after my ninth standard kind of experience with failure. I developed a fantastic memory, so I could read something and then go and write an answer, and I would do a fairly good job of that. So I would study well, and just before the exam, go to college 1 hour before, and then go up to all those people who are studying and keep telling them, okay, have you studied this? Because this is going to come today for 20 marks. And one of those events was, I actually, in the University of Pune, they used to issue a syllabus, which was a cyclo-style book. So in one of those exams, I went out and told people, this is what is going to come today, and this is the 20 mark. And a lot of people, in their full tension, didn't realize I wasn't showing a book. I was actually showing a syllabus. And some of them then went and got that, studied. And so I was known for that is one thing. Second thing is that I started a initiative in college about having these debates.
Mhm.
So I would gather a bunch of friends and say, okay, we'll debate. And some of the favorite debates then used to be Hero Honda is a better motorcycle, or a Yamaha RX is a better motorcycle. So the rule was that we will divide the group into two. Half will talk for this, half will talk for that. And tomorrow you have to do the reverse. So
Okay.
one debate will happen over 2 days. One day you talk from this side, then you go prepare and come and talk from the other side, so that it will help us kind of understand. And more than that, it will help us to stay even. There
Hmm.
is no question of one becoming more overpowering over the other. So
Good one.
notorious things like that.
Yeah, but I like the concept of reversing it, and so you're one day you're completely for it, and the other day you're completely against it.
Against it. Yes. Yeah.
That's a good one.
And that helped a lot of us to gain a lot of knowledge. We started it more because people would get very passionate, and we would say, okay boss, passion is okay, kal reverse pad ke aana. Abhi tumne aaj you told me that this is a better motorcycle, for example. Now tomorrow go and tell me what are the problems with this motorcycle, so that your that position is kind of lost and you can come down to ground earth. Interesting.
Yeah. What are the couple of nostalgic things from your childhood which kids are missing in the school nowadays? A school or Bahar?
I think
Thing. Yeah.
I think one of them is the physical activity. I think the whole culture of devices. I think one thing we are missing with people in general. Some of them do who have a passion for sport, but at our time, you had to spend those one or two classes in a day on the ground, and that PT teacher will come, and you like it or you don't like it, you jump like a monkey, and you do what you are asked to do. So I think that is one thing I think the current generation seems to miss. And the second thing is the whole conversations. So people were still a lot more close knit as a family. So the interactions of families were a lot more stronger. And today, because of nuclear families, because of the requirements of people moving all over and away, I think somewhere that seems to have got lost. I remember in our school days, we would go for a summer vacation for 2 months to Dadi's house or to Nani's house. So it was one of the two. This year is this place, that year is that place, and you went there and you spent 2 months. So whereas now you go on a vacation, you're going somewhere for 3 days, somewhere for 4 days. So you don't get to immerse yourself in the culture or any of that. You're just skimming the surface. Whereas earlier you would get deep and understand the food. You could have long conversations. So you got used to that place. And even today, I remember, Jhansi and Jabalpur, which were my nani's and dadi's place. So much better than many other places I would have visited.
Your favorite snack at your nani's and dadi's place?
Well, I guess at that stage I would say samosa and chaat, in terms of all of these dry snacks that you would keep snacking through the day, and I had a fancy for sweets, so a lot of sweet things.
Yeah. Nice, sir. So yeah, I think Nidhi Trivedi also mentions about that's been her place also. Is she talking about Jhansi? Good. Nice interaction, sir. I think it's nice knowing you. With all this experience, I mean, you've been a shrewd, or I would say, very, very professional business leader heading corporates, large corporates. Then, you've been into startups, and, now you have your own firm. And you have faced all these challenges in your life where you've become very strong to face any situation. Now, with all this experience, what would you do when you become the chief minister? What are the areas you would clearly focus on?
So I think one of the things I would, or top item on my list to focus on would be how do we bring a lot more awareness on social impact. I think a lot of people today have a view about social impact as charity, as donations, and these are words I hate, because there's very little you can do. It's so condescending to have these words saying I can donate or I'm doing charity. I think that whole concept, how do we work on changing to say that I'm creating social impact, because somebody created that with me, whether it was by giving me money or by giving me education or giving me exposure or giving me an opportunity. So how do I create an opportunity where each individual can do something to create social impact? And like I said, some can do money and a lot of people can do other things besides money. So if I was to be the CM, I will say that it's compulsory for each person to be able to come back and answer back. Like you have an income tax, create a mechanism for you to say, okay, what did I do this month towards social impact? And if I didn't do it, then there's a penalty you pay, and it's a fairly hefty penalty. And if you did, you're good. Move forward. So create a institutional method of creating social impact.
Good one. I think that should really that is more result oriented, and I think that should be a norm. Like most of these organizations have like BNA and all that. What did you do this month?
Right.
It's like clearly defined that how many people have you referred, how many people have you generated
Correct.
some business for, how many did you achieve. I think similarly there should be clear statistics and targets for what you're contributing in terms of money or references, getting somebody a job, uh, motivating
Or
somebody to.
or just going and educating people, just spending time. Quite often, for example, I go to an old age home,
Hmm.
and one of the models that I uh, worked on fairly early was to work with an old age home in Pune and create an orphanage in an old age home.
Wow.
So what we did is we created a room and brought 25 kids and put them there. So the elders got a child to look after, and the children got a grandparent who took care of them. Now, in that model, just to go and sit there and have a conversation would make such a big difference to their life. You're doing nothing. You go and spend that 1 hour that you would have wasted in a movie or in some social activity just to have a conversation with the elders or with the kids. So it could be something as simple as that, where it
I,
doesn't take anything.
I agree with you. I've experienced it, and it is priceless. I mean, you cannot measure.
Yeah,
A lot of
correct.
people fear that, saying that okay, if I'm going to old age home, I've done something today, I've taken a
Mhm.
fruit, or but they fear the commitment that Mergo, these guys will start chasing me for more money and all that. But
Mm.
honestly, all they need is our presence, just to
That's right.
talk to them, sit
Talk.
and talk to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Meaning in this same old age home, I realized in this talking that there was a retired IAS officer
Hmm.
who was living in an old age home.
Oh,
And that's how the idea of the orphanage came. I said, look, with your level of education, if we were to just get some kids here, you can do wonders with them.
true.
And he said, yeah, but how? I said, you don't worry, we will create that. And then that model worked beautifully. Yes. So we don't know, conversations can bring up what? Like I said earlier, conversations can solve every problem.
Nice. Good thoughts. I think you have a lot of clarity in thoughts. I think that's one reason you've been, able to fight, make a difference in, every role which you played as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, as a father, as a husband. I think you've been winning all these times. So thanks a lot for taking time out, and thanks for responding to all the questions our viewers had and your friends had. And thank you, friends who joined in. Connecting more memories. And now Nidhi is saying she is also from Jabalpur. I think she was talking about.
Okay, Jabalpur, okay.
Oh, so,
So I still have my uncles and a lot of relatives in Jabalpur. So I still have a connect with Jabalpur.
well, so thank you for taking time out, sir. I was very skeptical whether you would come down for this particular show. I wasn't really sure, but it's an inspiration when because we started this show with simple people who got passion. And when you're coming in, it's not only you share the story, but you're inspiring others that this is all a platform. It's a respect you brought in for this particular show. So it's an
Thank
honor to
you.
have you. A lot of respect for whatever you've done. All the best with your upsurge, the venture which you're doing it. Any help we can do as friends to, cheer that brand out, let us know. Just shout out, and we'll be there as a brand work and our friends. So thank you, friends, for joining in. So do follow Vivek and whatever he's up to, because he's one passionate professional and a personal friend who has done a lot of things in his life, and it's worth watching for what is he up to.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you for a lot of kind words, and thank you for giving an opportunity to kind of interact with people, share the story. So, thank you very much to you and to WurkTV, and wish you guys also all the best. It's a good thing you're doing to bring out multiple stories of people and different facets of people. So all the best to you,
Thank you.
and let's stay connected. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, friends. Have a great day.